What's up, guys, and today we're diving into a topic that's reshaping the world: the electric vehicle revolution. It's more than just new cars. It's a fundamental shift in transportation with a clear global showdown between China and the United States. The scale of this transformation is massive, impacting global economies and our environment. As of 2024, China leads the EV market, accounting for nearly half of all electric car sales worldwide. Think about that, almost 1 out of every 2 EVs sold globally is in China. In contrast, the US EV market share is about 8.1% of all light vehicle sales. That's a considerable gap, raising questions about how we got here and where we're headed. We'll delve into the factors propelling China's dominance in the EV sector. We'll look at government strategy, manufacturing muscle, and consumer adoption. And we'll examine the challenges the US faces in this competitive landscape. There's a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. Let's first talk about the scale of what's happening in China. Over 11 million EVs were registered in China in 2024, a 38.2% increase from 2023. This growth is due to long-term efforts and government policies. The variety of models and charging infrastructure are key factors. Now let's shift gears and look at the United States. In 2024, EVs made up 8.1% of US light vehicle sales, up from 7.3% in 2023. The US market is still in an earlier phase of its transition. Comparing these trajectories highlights the global EV race. A huge driver behind China's EV surge is government policy. China has implemented robust policies aimed at supercharging its EV sector. Substantial subsidies lower the purchase price for consumers, making EVs more attractive. Significant tax exemptions further reduce the cost of ownership. Massive investment in charging infrastructure addresses range anxiety. For instance, Beijing's trade-in subsidy offers up to 20,000 yuan for trading in older gasoline cars. Now let's contrast this with the US. The US has a federal tax credit of up to $7,500 for qualifying new electric vehicles. However, the structure and reach of these incentives have been more complex and subject to changes. The US incentives haven't had the same broad impact as China's multi-pronged strategy. The difference in the scale and consistency of government support is a critical factor. China's long-term commitment has created a fertile ground for its EV market to flourish. In the US, the policy landscape has been less direct and more fragmented. Let's talk about what powers the EV revolution: batteries and the supply chain. China has established a formidable position in battery production. Companies like CATL and BYD are global giants in battery production. In 2024, CATL held 37.9% of the global EV battery market. This dominance extends to raw materials like lithium, cobalt, and graphite. This level of control gives Chinese EV manufacturers a massive competitive advantage. Now, looking at the United States, there's a growing awareness of the need to build up a domestic EV supply chain. Significant investments have been announced, both from the government and private companies. However, building a comprehensive domestic supply chain is a monumental task. The US is making strides but is currently playing catch-up. This disparity in manufacturing and supply chain control has profound implications. For Chinese companies, it means faster innovation cycles and better cost control. For the US, it highlights the importance of developing more resilient supply chains. For consumers, price is critical. Chinese EV manufacturers are making waves with competitive pricing. They produce a range of EVs at lower prices. Take BYD's Dolphin Surf in Europe, priced between €22,990 and €24,990. This affordability drives high sales volumes. Economies of scale and lower labor costs help. In contrast, US EV prices often exceed $55,000. This prices many Americans out of the market. Higher prices in the US have several causes. US automakers focus on larger vehicles. Battery costs remain significant. Initial US EVs are often higher trim models. China's lower prices expand their customer base. In the US, upfront cost is a hurdle for many. Bridging this affordability gap is crucial. Beyond making a lot of EVs cheaply, Chinese companies are also pushing hard on technology. Companies like XPeng are showcasing this with significant revenue growth. These companies are rapidly iterating on their products, launching new models frequently. XPeng recently launched an AI-powered variant called Mona M03. The Chinese domestic market acts as a massive incubator for new technologies. With millions of users providing data, companies can refine their products quickly. Now, if we look at the US, innovation is a huge focus as well. Tesla has been a leader in EV technology, particularly in battery management and autonomous driving. American companies are investing heavily in R&D, pushing the envelope on range and performance. The US tech ecosystem brings strength in software development and AI research. Chinese companies are leveraging their agile development processes to rapidly deploy new features. Both approaches are driving the industry forward, but with different competitive strengths. After conquering significant ground domestically, many Chinese EV manufacturers are now looking outward. Companies like BYD are leading this charge, with sales in Europe quadrupling in early 2025. China's overall EV exports saw a nearly 20% increase in 2024. They are leveraging their cost advantages and expanding product lineups to penetrate new markets. They're establishing local sales networks and service centers. The strategy involves launching with highly competitive pricing to gain market share. Now, if we look at the export strategies of US EV makers, Tesla has been the dominant American EV exporter. However, Tesla has faced increased competition and sales decline in some regions. Other US automakers are beginning to export their EVs, but often on a smaller scale. The primary focus for many US automakers has been on electrifying their popular domestic models. Building a global export strategy for EVs is a complex undertaking. Chinese EV companies are using their domestic success as a springboard for international expansion. For US companies, the immediate challenge is consolidating their position in the domestic market. While China's EV industry has seen phenomenal growth, it's not all smooth sailing. One significant challenge is the potential for increased trade friction and protectionist measures. For example, the European Union announced provisional penalty tariffs against Chinese EVs in 2024. These trade disputes could impact the global expansion strategies of Chinese EV makers. Internally, ensuring the reliability and accessibility of charging infrastructure remains an ongoing task. The electricity grid's capacity to handle increasing demand is also a consideration. Shifting focus to the United States, the challenges are different but equally significant. Building out a nationwide charging network is a massive undertaking. Affordability remains a primary barrier for many American consumers. Addressing this requires not just incentives, but also a wider availability of lower-priced EV models. There's also the challenge of reshoring critical parts of the supply chain. Overcoming skepticism about EV range and battery life requires continued education. Both China and the US have their own distinct sets of obstacles to navigate. China's strategic investments in the EV sector have paid off, positioning them as the current global leader. This wasn't just about one policy, it was a comprehensive multi-decade strategy. The scale of their manufacturing capabilities gives them a cost and supply chain advantage. Companies like CATL and BYD are global titans shaping the industry. However, the road ahead isn't without its bumps. The threat of international tariffs and trade tensions could slow down their export ambitions. For the United States, enhancing competitiveness involves tackling several core challenges. Addressing the pricing disparity is paramount. Strengthening the domestic supply chain for batteries is crucial. Continued investment in a nationwide charging infrastructure is non-negotiable. Innovation will play a vital role in the transition. The global EV race is a catalyst for the transition to sustainable transportation. Alright, so after diving deep into all of that, it's clear that China has established a serious lead in the global EV race. Their strategic investments and massive manufacturing capabilities have propelled them to the forefront. They've made EVs accessible and appealing to a huge domestic market and are expanding globally. It's a textbook example of long-term industrial strategy paying off. But as we've seen, this isn't a static picture. The US is actively working to bolster its own EV industry. The challenges are significant, particularly around making EVs more affordable and ensuring infrastructure support. Ultimately, this EV showdown is about more than just selling the most electric cars. It's about shaping the future of transportation and tackling climate change. The road ahead will have more twists and turns, with ongoing debates about trade and technology. It's going to be fascinating to watch how this unfolds. Collaboration and continued innovation will drive us towards a more sustainable automotive future. What do you guys think is the biggest factor here? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.